just want to start with coming up this afternoon. You're going to be giving the Fall Convocation address. Can you talk a little bit about what message you're going to give to current college students as well as their families?
I'm delighted to be here at Elon. I've been looking forward to this. Great school, increasingly famous place, and a well-known school for actually a pretty happy student body. Now, I study happiness. This is what I teach. I teach college students the science of happiness, not from a kind of just a self-improvement perspective or a rah sort of thing. Just be happier. No, it's a science. We know a lot more than we used to about how the brain works and how we can manage our emotions, and that's really what I want to talk about. I want to talk to the parents and students today who are just brand new in this community. The students are 2 months into their college experience, and what they should be thinking about such that during these critical years, they get better at the skill in happiness. When you're in college, you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to learn all of the things that you're supposed to learn to become an accomplished professional, get a job, and all that responsible adult stuff. But more importantly, you're setting yourself up for a life that can be one that's full of satisfaction, that can be full of enjoyment, that can be full of meaning. But that means you have to know the tricks. You actually have to know what's going on inside your head and practice a certain set of habits. That's what I'm going to talk about. What are the habits that you need to develop between ages of 18 and 22 that will set you up to be the happiest person that you could possibly be?
Wonderful. Well, it should be very interesting. Talking about living life with meaning, you have this idea of creating meaningful relationships that you've talked about within your books. What advice would you have for college students who maybe have either just here or have been here for a while and they're struggling to build meaningful relationships in their life?
That's normal. If you're lonely when you first get to college, that just means you're a normal person. And the problem with that is that nobody really tells you that it's normal to feel lonely. We feel lonely when we're not around our people, and we just haven't figured out who our people are yet. You have to give yourself permission to be a little bit lonely, as opposed to beating yourself up and saying something's wrong with me. I'm an antisocial person. I'm never going to have friends. It's a kind of a catastrophization. It's catastrophizing the problem that we have, and that often happens. Now, one thing that's also worth pointing out, and that we know this from a lot of studies on the college experience, is that almost everybody experiences loneliness when they come, and then they look back to that first semester with incredible sentimentality, because what you look back on is what you learned when you were changing. And so when you're having a period of intense change, you remember everything about it, and you just love the memories of that particular time. So keep that in your minds. I'm lonely right now, but I'm going to look back on this and say that was a fruitful period when I learned who I was.
Yeah. Hopefully.
You're a student, right?
Yes, I am a student.
And your first semester was tricky?
Yeah.
Yeah. And now you look back on it, and you're changing a lot. You learned a lot about the Erin-ness.
Yes, definitely. And so I'm a senior, going to be graduating in the spring. What piece of advice would you have to people that are about to graduate who are trying to focus on seeking fulfillment in their life outside of college and what they've been engulfed in for the past?
I mean, after college?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about that too, because my youngest child is a senior in college, just like you. And we're having these conversations. Now, she's a psych neuroscience major. She's kind of a chip off the old block, right? She does the kind of stuff that I do. But one of the things that's worth keeping in mind is that you're not going to find your bliss immediately out of college. That wouldn't be normal. You know, people want to find the perfect job, and they feel like there's something wrong if they're not finding their perfect job. That's not the way it works. The truth is you need to find something that's good enough and that you can begin to learn your way in the world outside of college. And you need to, you're not going to find the job that's going to satisfy you for the rest of your life, because you're going to have between 4 and 5 careers, something like 12 or 13 jobs. This is just the first one that's good enough, pays enough, seems interesting enough, is in the right place more or less. Then take it and enjoy it. That's what I recommend. Don't worry about it too much.
And so another idea that you have in your books is this idea of earned success. Can you talk about how students are able to find that throughout college as well as throughout their life, finding different opportunities to have that?
Earned success is the idea that you're creating value with your life and value in the lives of other people. And to do that, you need to find some place where you actually can do something valuable, where you're using your merit and hard work and personal responsibility, and it's being valued by somebody else. That can be in all sorts of different areas. It can be in your volunteer life, it can be in what you do in the community, it can be in your family life, and also it can and should be what you're doing in your job. Look for a job where the harder you work, the more they appreciate it. You know, it's very easy to wind up in a job situation where people are rewarded for hanging around a long time, or people kind of rewarded for being loyal. Nah, merit's where it's at. That's where the adventure really happens, and that's what earned success is all about. And the sooner that people are hungry for a merit-based environment where they're recognized for doing a really good job, the harder they're going to work, the more satisfying work is going to be.
Yeah. And so, obviously, we talked a little bit about like surrounding yourself with people who are going to appreciate you and make you happy and really
help
support
you to help you to make yourself happy. Really, is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to people who are stuck in a place where they're not being recognized and they don't have great relationships and they're kind of just pigeonholed?
Yeah. So this happens a lot with a lot of young people that I meet, and a lot of people will say, you know, usually about 2/3 of people under 30 say that they would like a different job, but only about 20% is looking for another job. Look for another job is what it comes down to. It's a very robust labor market. We don't live in, you know, a country that's rigid. You know, there's only a 4.2% unemployment rate. Everybody's looking for good people. If you're ambitious and you're being thwarted in your ambitions because you have a rigid, job situation where people don't recognize all the good that you're doing, leave. I mean, that's great. That's how capitalism is supposed to work. And so, you know, be part of the solution to the problems in your life as opposed to bemoaning the problems. Now, it's not super easy all the time. I mean, it's kind of scary, as a matter of fact. And you might have to move, but that's good too. That's a good thing too. Remember, your life is supposed to be an adventure. Your life is not just supposed to stay in one particular place. Your life is a startup. You know, you're the entrepreneur in the incorporated company called Erin. And you're the founder. And you're trying to accumulate the love and happiness that can actually come to your life, but only if you're really entrepreneurial about it. And an entrepreneur would never put up with nonsense. No. Fix it or leave. That's my advice.
And so one last question. If you could go back and start one habit earlier in your life, you have one habit.
Yeah.
What habit are you going to start earlier?
There are habits for happiness, and there are habits that actually lower unhappiness, and those are not the same thing. So, as a matter of fact, the unhappiness and happiness are based on emotions that are processed in different hemispheres of the brain. For me, what I would have done much earlier is I would have had better hygiene to lower my unhappiness. I did lots and lots and lots of things that were very good for being an unhappy person. And I would have done things differently than I did. You know, I would have started seriously exercising earlier than I did. I would have taken care of my body in an entirely different way than I did. I would have stopped drinking alcohol earlier than I did, right? And through my 20s, and I was kind of in my 20s, I was sort of a knucklehead, and it wasn't terrible, right? But I'm telling you, life is so much better now than it used to be. And the reason it's so much better is not that I'm happier. I'm a little happier. I'm a lot less unhappy than I used to be because I've got my habits under control. So that's one of the things I would recommend to everybody is start becoming less unhappy by taking better care of yourself. And that really starts with diet, exercise, and the use of substances.